Today, we're going to New York to talk about a young lady named Karina Vetrano. Karina was 30 years old. One day in 2016, she went out for a jog in her neighborhood. It was something she did all the time, nothing different about it, but she never came home. Now, this case got a lot of people talking, not just because of what happened to Karina, but because when the police said they caught the guy who did it, a whole lot of folks said, wait a minute, are you sure about that? I'm going to tell you the whole story and you can decide what you think. But first, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss our stories. Now, let me tell you about where this happened. Karina lived in Howard Beach, Queens. It's one of those quiet neighborhoods where families live, houses lined up nice and neat, not too big, not too small, the kind of place where your neighbors and kids can ride their bikes around. To the south, you got Jamaica Bay. To the north, there's a parkway. JFK Airport sits to the east. And to the west, you got Spring Creek Park. Then right past that creek, you're in Brooklyn. This is what we call a family neighborhood, safe as they come. You live there, work in the city, and when you want some fresh air, you got that park right there for a nice walk or jog. Sounds pretty good, right? Now you know how us ladies feel about jogging alone. According to some survey by one of those sneaker companies, 92% of women worry about their safety when they go running. Only 28% of men worry about that. Makes perfect sense to me, honey. We got to think about these things. But Karina, she felt pretty safe in her neighborhood. This was her home, her park, just one block away from her front door. What could go wrong? Let me tell you about this sweet girl. Karina Vetrano was born in 1986, a real New York girl through and through. Her parents were Philip and Kathy, and she had two siblings. After she got her master's degree in speech pathology, she went to work with children who had autism in the city. Bless her heart, working with those babies takes a special kind of person. But you know what Karina's real dream was? She wanted to be a writer. Had her own little website called Karina V, where she wrote the most beautiful things. She described it as a collection of conversations, contradictions, and poetic conflicts. Lord have mercy, that girl had a way with words. She wrote poems, thoughts about the world, little stories about growing up. Listen to what she wrote about herself. I am a writer not by choice, but by compulsion. I write my thoughts out like this to no one in particular. The majority of my life is on paper, every day, every year, for the past 10 years in a collection of diaries. This is my life through my eyes, and I invite you to take a peek into my work. It's chaotic and unpredictable, but I do believe that on some days it's quite beautiful in all its poetic little tragedies. Doesn't that just break your heart? Such a talented young woman with so much life ahead of her. In her spare time, Karina loved traveling and running. Maybe that's when she did her best thinking, working out those story ideas in her head while she got her steps in. Now, Karina was real close with her daddy, Philip. He was a retired firefighter from the FDNY, and those two were like two peas in a pod. They went on road trips together, had their evening jogs together. Philip was one of those good dads who made time for his daughter, and she loved spending time with him too. So here's what happened on August 2nd, 2016. It was a Tuesday, nice summer afternoon. Karina got home from work and wanted to go for her usual jog around 5 o'clock. But Philip's back was acting up something fierce. You know how that goes when you get older. One day you're fine, next day you can barely move. So Karina said, don't worry, Pop, I'll just go by myself. Be right back. Now, Philip, he had his reservations about her going alone. What father wouldn't? But Karina was like, it'll be fine. See you in a bit. Off she went into Spring Creek Park. Philip and Karina had been texting back and forth while she was running, just the usual checking in that families do. How's it going? All good, almost done. You know the drill. But then, around 5:30, the text just stopped coming. Philip tried calling straight to voicemail, sent more texts, nothing. You know that feeling when your kid doesn't answer their phone and you start getting that sick feeling in your stomach? That's exactly what Philip was going through. Hours went by and darkness started falling over that park. Still no Karina. Philip did the smart thing. He went to his neighbor who happened to be an NYPD police chief and said something's not right. She should have been back hours ago. They called the police together and search parties started going into Spring Creek Park around 7 o'clock. Now here's the part that just breaks my heart into a million pieces. It was Philip himself who found her. Around 11 o'clock that night, after searchers had been looking for hours, he found his baby girl about 15 feet off the main trail, face down in the weeds and marsh. Lord have mercy. No father should ever have to see what Philip saw that night. Karina was dead. In her hands were weeds that she had tried to grab onto as she was being dragged off that trail. Her face was all beaten up, bruises everywhere. Her front tooth had been chipped. Her jogging pants had been removed. That poor baby had been dragged off the trail, sexually assaulted, and then strangled to death. The police immediately started looking for anything suspicious, any witnesses who might have been in the park that evening, but here's something that gave everybody the chills. 10 years before this, back in February 2006, almost the exact same thing happened in that exact same park. A 24-year-old girl named Emmett Street Guillen from Boston had been studying criminal justice in New York City. One cold Saturday night in February, she and a friend went out to some bars in the city. Emmett vanished from the second bar they went to, called the Falls. Her body was later found in Spring Creek Park in almost the exact same condition as Karina, sexually assaulted and killed. But that case got solved pretty quick. Turned out one of the bouncers at the Falls did it. DNA evidence nailed him, and he got life in prison without parole. So naturally, police thought, okay, we know how to solve these cases. We got DNA. We'll catch this guy too. They found DNA under Karina's fingernails and on her phone. But when they ran it through their database, nothing came up. Whoever did this wasn't in their system. The police also found security camera footage that showed Karina running into the park, but nobody was following her. This made them think the killer came from a different direction, maybe from the Brooklyn side where the park overlaps. Well, Karina's family wasn't about to sit around and wait for something to happen. They put up billboards all over the place, offered a $20,000 reward, and held press conferences. Philip got up there and begged for information, but it was Karina's mama who really let loose. She looked right into those cameras and said some things I can't repeat on this channel, but honey, she told that killer exactly what she thought of him and what was waiting for him in the afterlife.
And now, look into my eyes, everybody, because I'm going to address the coward. Whoever you are, I'm here to remind you, in case you don't already know, that now it's the whole entire world against you. The whole entire world knows what a pathetic, puny, weak piece of filth that you are. Soon we're going to have a face to the dickless piece of garbage that you are. And above and beyond all, you know that my daughter was a force to be reckoned with. And I guarantee you, you motherfucker, that you will be reckoning with that force Not only for the rest of your pathetic life, but for the rest of eternity as you fucking burn in hell.
And you know what? I don't blame her one bit. You hurt somebody's baby, you better expect Mama Bear to come out swinging. Months went by and this case was getting nowhere fast. August became September, became autumn, became winter. The police were completely stumped. They had DNA but no match. They had cameras but no suspect. They questioned everybody close to Karina, family, friends, coworkers, ex-boyfriends. Nobody's DNA matched. Everybody had alibis. There was this one coworker at Karina's part-time job where she helped promote a club in Astoria. This guy was a little too aggressive, maybe a bit stalky, but when police checked him out, he was working at the time of the murder. Dead end. It really did look like this was just some random crime. Maybe somebody driving on the parkway who stopped, did this terrible thing, and then drove off. Could be hundreds of miles away by now. The Vetrano family kept pushing, but it felt like they were pushing against a brick wall. A GoFundMe was set up that eventually got over $250,000 in reward money. Still nothing. Philip got back on TV and made a plea directly to the killer. Turn yourself in. I will make sure that reward money goes to the person of your choice, your sister, your brother, your mother. It's a life changer. You will be caught, so take advantage of that while you can. But then in January 2017, something interesting happened. One of the detectives working the case decided to start completely over from scratch. Sometimes that's what you got to do when you're stuck, right? He said, you know what? We're not getting anywhere with what we're doing, so let me look at this from a different angle. This detective started thinking about some reports that came in a couple months before Karina's murder back in May 2016. There had been calls about some suspicious character walking around Howard Beach. Folks said this guy wasn't from the neighborhood, just loitering around, maybe looking for houses or cars to rob. This detective actually bumped into this guy one day when he was off duty, driving around with his daughters. Instead of dealing with it right then and there, because, hey, it was his day off and he had his kids with him, he called 911. Hi, it's not an emergency. It's a suspicious male. He's wandering around the block, walking up and down with a hood on, just stopping in front of houses, then keeps going, then stops again. They got the guy's name that day, Chanel Lewis. Young fella, 19 years old, no criminal record. After that call, nothing much happened. They talked to him, he kind of jogged off. End of story. But this detective, he was thinking, you know what? Maybe we should take another look at this guy. We literally have nothing else to go on. So he decided to follow up. Turns out Chanel Lewis lived in East New York, Brooklyn, right next to Howard Beach. He lived with his mother, who was a Jamaican immigrant, and his two sisters. He'd gotten into some trouble in high school. Allegedly once told a teacher, I want to stab all the girls, which is never a good sign. By all accounts, he was a loner who liked to go over to Howard Beach a lot because it was quieter than his own neighborhood. He was very familiar with Spring Creek Park. So police went to talk to Chanel, and here's the thing. He voluntarily gave them a DNA sample, just like that. And boom, it matched the DNA they found under Karina's fingernails. But wait, there's more. The police also found out that the day after Karina's murder, Chanel had gone to a hospital because he had an injured hand. When the doctor asked what happened, Chanel said he got jumped by some muggers and tried to fight them off. But the doctor who treated him later told police that the injury didn't look like that kind of wound. They had to remove what they believed was a foreign object from his hand, and they thought it might have been Karina's chipped tooth. So they brought Chanel in for questioning, and he confessed. Said that when he saw Karina jogging that day, he got angry because of a past situation and started hitting her. Said he grabbed her, hit her in the face about 5 times, strangled her, and finished her off. When they asked him why he did it, he said he was angry that day because some neighbors had been playing loud music, and it made him feel unsafe and uncomfortable because he liked his place private and peaceful. Case closed, right? Well, hold on there, sweeties, because that's where this story gets real interesting.
Kind, gentle person, loving person. Yeah, well, I didn't lose her. They will never take another person's life.
Teresa Forbes is adamant, saying her brother Chanel Lewis did not kill Karina Vetrano. She believes the police are setting him up.
They're afraid of him for the crime.
His sister Teresa got on TV and said they believed the police were setting him up, that they were just desperate to solve this high-profile case that had so much media attention and pressure from the family. And you know what? When you really look at that confession, some things don't add up at all. For one thing, Chanel said he drowned Karina, that he put her face in the water. But honey, her body was found nowhere near water. Not a drop of water around where they found her. He also couldn't remember basic things about what she was wearing. The detectives had to keep asking leading questions to get answers out of him. Some of his responses seemed almost like he was just saying what they wanted to hear. Plus, Chanel had learning disabilities. The school he went to was specifically for children with learning problems. His family believed that made him easy to manipulate during questioning. When Chanel went on trial in November 2018, he pleaded not guilty. His defense team argued that his confession was coerced and that the way his DNA was collected wasn't proper, just some detective's hunch. Here's another problem. The method they used to test that DNA was very controversial. It's not even used anymore, and the lab that did the testing wasn't even licensed in New York. Just because something is controversial doesn't mean it's wrong, but it does raise questions. The trial ended with a hung jury. The jurors just couldn't decide if he was guilty or not. So they tried him again 5 months later. And during that second trial, something wild happened that nobody saw coming. Somebody sent an anonymous letter to Chanel's lawyers at the Legal Aid Society. They think it was written by an NYPD police officer. This letter had some very interesting things to say about how the investigation was really handled. According to this letter, right after Karina's murder, police were told to be on the lookout for 2 jacked white guys from Howard Beach. That's what witnesses had apparently seen in the area. But instead of focusing on that, police ended up randomly testing the DNA of 360 black men who lived in the area. Think about that for a minute. They were looking for 2 white guys, but they tested hundreds of black men. How does that make sense? The defense said this letter proved that important evidence had been hidden from them during the trial. But the prosecution had some new evidence of their own. They went through Chanel's phone and found some very interesting search history. After Karina's murder, it looked like Chanel had been Googling all kinds of stuff about the case. He'd saved pictures from the investigation, been looking up information about trials and prosecutors, searching for what to do if you get arrested, even looking up something called the Sacrament of Penance. Now that's some pretty strange stuff to be searching for if you didn't do anything wrong, don't you think? His phone also pinged a cell tower near Spring Creek Park at the exact time Karina was killed. So he was definitely in that area when it happened. During the second trial, the prosecution painted a picture of Chanel as someone who was much bigger and stronger than Karina, 8 to 9 inches taller and 40 to 50 pounds heavier.
In broad daylight, about a mile away from her home, that the unthinkable happened. The unimaginable happened. This young, attractive, vibrant, full of life young lady was viciously and savagely attacked. She was thrown to the ground by her assailant, who you will learn was 8 to 9 inches taller than her and 40 to 50 pounds heavier than her. He grabbed her and threw her to the ground. She was caught by surprise. Her attacker pummeled her. He punched her over and over again to her face, blackening her eyes, bruising her face, punching her in her mouth, punching her in her teeth, breaking, fracturing, cracking her front teeth. He beat her. She struggled. She tried to get away. She couldn't.
We, the jury, find the defendant guilty.
The thunderous reaction from the Vetranos side of the courtroom was unmistakable when the jurors delivered a guilty verdict on each of the 4 counts against Chanel Lewis.
Chanel Lewis was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. But sweeties, this story still isn't over. Over 40,000 people have signed a petition asking for this case to be reopened. They still believe the wrong person is sitting in prison. The judge who sentenced Chanel said something that really stuck with me. He said, "This case dispels the fallacy that as long as we confine ourselves to our neighborhood and do what we do on a daily basis in the presence of our loved ones, we're somehow safe." And that's the scary truth, isn't it? Karina was just doing what she always did in a place she thought was safe, and something terrible happened to her. So what do you think happened here? Did they get the right person, or is there still a killer out there? The DNA evidence seems pretty strong, and that phone data is hard to explain away. But that confession was full of holes, and the way the investigation was handled raises some serious questions. It's one of those cases where you really hope they got it right, because the thought of an innocent person sitting in prison for life while the real killer walks free, that just makes your blood run cold. And the thought that maybe Karina's family still doesn't have real justice, that's almost too heartbreaking to think about. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you believe Chanel Lewis killed Karina Vetrano, or do you think there's more to this story? Make sure you subscribe for more true crime stories, and don't forget to hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode. Until next time, you take care of each other and yourselves, because Grandma Kitty loves each and every one of you.